Welcome, everybody. This is day 2 of Skyfall 2023. We welcome those watching and listening. You know, I remember back when I used to go to, I attended Larry Lee's church in Rockwall, Texas. Some of you won't know who he is, but some of the old guard out there know Dr. Larry Lee and Church on the Rock. And I was out there for a while, and I remember Larry Lee used to say, he said, you know, to get a balanced diet, you need information, and then you need inspiration. And I think this conference is giving you a little bit of both, a bit of information and a little bit of inspiration. And let me just ask you something. I know Pastor Greg Locke's got a lot of critics out there, but was the anointing of God on him last night or not? Amen. He's a good brother. He's a good brother. He's in tears many times last night, and then even when I was talking to him. So God's using him. Amen. Today we're going to get into, of course, we're going to have just a second, Dr. Chitra Nayak. She is a PhD in physics. She's a professor at the Tuskegee University here in Alabama. Oh, well, we're not in Alabama, but in Alabama. We're in Georgia. I keep forgetting that. And I told her the other day, and I just have to share a little bit with you. You know, she ended up coming to our church about a year ago, a little over, because Sal and Jordan, Sal Corona owns his own construction and contracting business, and they were doing some work in her house. And she, you know, I guess they were in conversation, and she told them she was a physics PhD, and she said what got her attention was that they were not impressed. And but come to find out that our friend here, who is a physics PhD among other things, had already come to figure out that the earth is flat and that it's not, that the physics didn't work out long before she met us, long before she heard anything about us. And I told her the other day, I said, you do know that you're going to make history. You're making history today. Because as far as I know, I haven't seen a physics PhD come out as a biblical believer in the true nature of creation, biblical cosmology. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of dedication to the Lord to do that, because there could be some backlash after this for her. But, you know, I want to say this before I bring her up here. The big misnomer in this whole flat earth, biblical cosmology, revelation, movement, revival is what I would call it. The world out there and the people who want to criticize and mock and all that, they think that we're just a bunch of dumb, ignorant people. What they don't realize is that we were all taught the model that they were taught. You understand? From kindergarten on through high school and into college, we were all taught their model, the heliocentric model. But what they don't realize is how many engineers, PhDs in other fields, how many scientists, how many former high-ranking military officers that I have talked to personally that know and understand this truth. We have had in our earth curvature tests across Mobile Bay, we have had engineers from LSU and everywhere else. We've had geometry teachers. We've had 2 professors, PhDs. We've had again, not dumb people, not ignorant people. It's just people that figured out that we've been lied to about a lot of things. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Chitra Nayak.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Because I speak slow, with low volume usually. So Pastor Dean has been very clear that I should hold the mic. Is this okay? So I will start with a dream. So here you can see in 2016, November 13, I had this dream. So as I was sleeping, actually it was very real to me. Something moved in my bed. And I kind of, even in my sleep, I'm touching it and I see 2 small feet and 2 small hands. And I touched it, it's moving around. And I suddenly realized it is my Bible, because by the time I used to sleep with the Bible in my bed. And the first thing that came to my mind is that my Bible is coming to life, Word is coming to life, Jesus is coming back. And then I heard a large trumpet, but I didn't wake up. I really sleep well. So this large trumpet sounds, and I hear that go to the streets and start crying out, I'm coming back. And the trumpet keeps repeating, but the words stop. So I am even in my sleep a little bit logical. So I think, that cannot be a trumpet. Who will blow a trumpet in Auburn? It should be a car. And the moment I think that, I still remember it become complete silence, a silence I never felt. And I suddenly wake up. So till then I'm still asleep. And I wake up, I'm on my knees praying, and I love my sleep. I go back to sleep because no one taught me about prayer. So I sleep, and then when I wake up in the morning, of course, I'm confused as usual. And I ask God, what was that? And this is the verse I got, and that's why I have it. I took a picture, and it said, why are you troubled, and why do your thoughts arise in your heart? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself, handle me. And see, for spirit has no flesh and bones, as ye see me. So I run to the church I was in at that time. I tell the pastor after service, it's a Sunday, and by that time I am thinking I'm having a full package, because I am in the choir. I don't sing, but still I just stand there. And I am doing many things in the church. So I am actively involved at that time in one of the main churches in Auburn. And they told me, just pray about it. So yeah, I prayed, but nothing, I didn't know what to do yet. So I sincerely thank Pastor Dean and Pastor Nancy it's after 6 years. For the first time, I'm giving my testimony in public after. So I sincerely thank them to allow me to not be I should have been doing it in the street, so maybe God thought it is better to first start in a real tense situation. So this is great. So now I am Chitra Nayak. I have a PhD in physics. I'm an associate professor. I'm also, I work in artificial intelligence. And I still do, and I am more proud to be a student of the Fire and Grace School of Ministry. And I do have an accent, as you can see, and my mother tongue is very fast. So I was explaining today morning that I usually speak as if we fight. So when people hear, you think we are fighting. So if I might get excited as I go on. Now I'm scared, but it will soon become an excited state, and I will start to go like a train. So please wave to me if I do that. So I have to give an outline because I have not completely transitioned. So I will do a first half of my journey, because this is a testimony along with how I figured out I cannot be a Christian and a scientist, because I see that is the biggest struggle going on. And then I also kind of, with time, realized using mathematics in the old age, we started some ideas, and then it felt maybe nice to be smart, and then it was just taken over. So that's my story. And of course, the calling, confusion, understanding, and the second half, which is now. So I have to tell my story, I need to say where this started. So I was born in a place called Kerala. I'm in the tip, and my great-grandfathers, maybe 400 years back, were in Goa. So when India has different languages, and they are completely different. Alphabets are different, sounds are different, we cannot even understand each other. So from Goa, when the Portuguese came, they had they tried to you know the stories. Whenever people come who are Christians, they try to convert people with guns, not with the real way that Jesus Christ told them to. And because of that, many of my forefathers took some idols. We treat our idols like real gods. Say, we took the idols. I come from a Brahmin family, so we took our idols and moved to Kerala. And though we stay in Kerala, we don't marry. It's like Jews. We have a small community. We just intermarry. We have our own language. We don't let others come into us. Like we are friends, but we talk our language. They don't understand. So that's how we still live. Only very few have actually gone out of it. So why I'm telling this is because in my family or in my area as such, Christianity is not considered that favorably. I mean, we go to Christian schools and all, but for us, it's the people who displaced. Maybe I should say them now because I came out of it. And the one in the top that you see here, so that's a temple. So again, my life, when we start, especially Brahmins, if you know, we go to temple every day. Morning and evening is temple. Everything involved is temple. Even sometimes after marriage, honeymoon is in a temple. So we just visit that place as a sacred place. So that's how my life was. Every day, morning and evening, you go to temple when I was very young. And I went to a Catholic school. Because my mother, even though she had high school education, she thought I should get a better education, and she sent me to a convent Catholic school. And recently I had a deliverance that went on, so that changed me a lot. I think the Spirit of Mary was the hard, that one Pastor Dean had to try the hardest to get out of me. So, again, yesterday as Ted was talking, I was thinking, I was very tomboyish for me because I loved cutting my hair. I never had hair. I had very short hair. I wore my father's shirt. And that is one thing after coming to United States, I used to tell my students, I'm very glad I am not born in United States at this time because they might have converted me to something else and it would have been a harder transition. So I really walked like that till I was 12-year-old, 13-year-old. But now I realize it had nothing really to do with me wanting to be a boy. It was just boys were cool that time. Girls had a little more restriction. So I just wanted to be a boy. And I took part in all religious activities. But from my young age, I had a very strong rebellious spirit. So whenever someone tells me don't do something, I had to try doing it in secret. So in temples, we had many things that we were not supposed to do. And I will just try it to see what God will do to me. And with time, I started realizing God is not doing anything back, which means there cannot be any God. So inside my mind, by 12, 13-year-old, even though outside I look like very religious and going and doing everything, I started to come to a conclusion there cannot be a God because, God's not doing anything to me. And meanwhile, because you're in a Catholic school, they were not supposed to talk to us about Christianity because even though it's a Catholic school, government funded it. So we see the nuns, and we had a church inside. Actually, it was like a big cross with the Jesus Christ hanging on it. But they were never supposed to really talk to us. But still, when they're Christians, we will hear this and that. So I go and ask they told us that Jesus Christ is the Son of God because we celebrate Christmas. And I went and asked my uncle, and he said, yeah, it can be, but the Father, if you have a son, there should be a Father. That's our supreme God that we believe in. So, okay, I'm happy because, now we have two gods. And usually if you see Hindus, we have no issue. You will see in many Hindu houses crosses hanging or a statue of Mary, which I had in my house too. So we really sometimes don't really care to add one more God to what we otherwise believe. And that you will see, because Hindus will be more receptive than Muslims. when you talk about Christianity, and that is not because they started to accept, but more because they just, think it's just an addition. So again, this book is banned. It's called A Hindu Critique of Christianity by Chattambi Swamigal. My father at that point was such a strong anti-Christian person that he belonged to something called Rashtriya Seva Sangh. It is something associated with the current Modi government. So this book, for his 60th birthday, I actually found this book for him. So that's why I put it there. So that's how we were. And actually, now I'm thinking of reading this and trying to refute this with him, because he read this book. And this is a very famous a monk in Kerala, my region. And this was a book in Malayalam, my mother tongue. So mainly what I know is most of the hatred, like most of the reason why we don't like Christian, if you look at any place, will be because we don't like Christians, not Christianity. People don't even know what Christianity is or what Bible is. So, that's the same story for me, because we just thought they come and do certain things. So by this time, I'm already out of Hinduism. I'm coming to my 17, 18. And I don't know, I always had good grades, so things will be good. And then I met a faculty, because my mother lost a job at a time when I was around 16. And I found someone who needed me to proofread his physics books. So I used to be, my grammar will not sound good when I talk, but when I used to write, I was very careful and I could catch mistakes very fast. So I started proofreading, and he was a physics faculty, and he started talking about Richard Feynman. And he got a Nobel Prize in quantum electrodynamics. And then he just gave me a few books about this great scientist, as he calls him at that time. And he taught in Caltech, and he has 3 volumes of physics lectures for undergraduate without mathematics. And I started reading it with him, and that is why I suddenly changed from wanting to be a bank employee to be a physicist. From then on, I don't know, education became science became some kind of a passion. I suddenly started to understand mathematics. I still don't know why, because it became so easy that people really used to think about me to be someone very smart. And my bachelor's degree, I had 96% in Kerala. All of Kerala, I came up in a higher rank. And the points I lost was just for English and Hindi, because physics, I didn't lose any point. And by the time, the Kerala, my hometown, is a communist country. State, even now it's communist. I was not, I should not say that, but still I was very much involved in socialist ideology. I started getting the feeling that, world is not fair, and that you should be an activist and, take care of things all by your own. And if there was a strike, I will be in the front. I was in many newspaper articles because I'll be in the front. So people think about me as meek, but that time, when you have socialist ideologies, you are not. And of course, by the time, is there a God? No was the real answer, because everyone associated with me thought there was no God, or at least the people I respected. By that time, I was so far from my family in an emotional aspect, because, they were always in the temple, and I was out of it. So that's where this starts. I'm like, can everyone understand what I say? Okay, good. Okay. So the first half is almost coming to an end. And I got a master's with distinction, and that was from Cochin University of Science and Technology. After that, I went to Indian Institute of Astrophysics. I started a PhD program there. And actually, I was observing supernovae. And I will just just have a look at the top figure here. I will show, this is, actually I asked a friend of mine who still works there to send me 2 images. So she just sent me a supernovae explosion that they just took a few days back. But I will explain what it is later. So just have a look at that image. So I spend a little bit of time there, but I like to do mathematics more than just doing some image analysis. So I returned back to Cochin University after maybe a year, because I love my sleep. So this was, you have to be up all the night. So I was in observatories working all night, and the telescope that took this image is in top of Himalayas, so for higher visibility, and you operate it from a place called Bangalore in South India. And during my PhD, I worked in a mathematical concept like nonlinear dynamics. It's applied mathematics. That's when I started to code, and I really enjoy coding. And I had a few publications. I will tell you why I am telling this, because I know this will become important soon. And after finishing my PhD, I got married. Again, there was a rebellion there. I married someone from what in India they call as untouchables. Again, for me, it was more than a marriage. It was a social revolution that I was doing. And sometimes I realize that doesn't work that way. And unless you have God with you, and I didn't have. And in one sense, that was the best thing that happened in my life, because otherwise I would have married someone in my temple, and then I don't know, the escape would have been a little harder. So God has a plan always. And because the marriage failed, I never thought I would leave India, because whatever it was, I was very, very committed to my country. So at that time, I thought India is my country. I'm never leaving India. So, but once the divorce happened, by that time, I was kind of really separated from my family. So I didn't have a choice. So I thought I will just go for a postdoc, because one of my friends told me to. So I applied, and I directly got a postdoc position in Dalhousie University. So I went to Dalhousie University. I did something in bacterial biophysics, and that's how I started to move on to biology with physics and mathematics and coding. And then I also worked in University of Toronto. There I worked in immunology, something very similar, connecting the bacterial biophysics I was doing. So my later work was in immunology. And most of the conferences, this is a conference organized by the US Navy. As you can see, I am just standing very tiny. It will be hard to see, but usually I was the only female, maybe one more the second year, because I invited one person from India, because I was in the organizing committee also. So it's an international conference on applications of nonlinear dynamics, and this is by the US Navy. So usually I will be kind of left out too in one way. It was hard. So why did I talk about me? Because I just wanted to say I was, kind of accepted physicist. Maybe soon now, not to be. But I just wanted to make that rational behind explaining is that my credibility as a physicist was never questioned before. I have a lot of, though I said 3 publications during my PhD, after that I have published quite a bit. I have been, the last few years, I just didn't want to, so I had stopped involving in research, but I just wanted to make these points clear. During my postdoc in Toronto, I had a Jewish person as my postdoc mentor, and from my 18 year till when I was 33 is when I became a Christian. I had no one who was a believer of Christ around me. Of course, there was a girl called Sneha in university, but we don't talk religion when we are in Cochin, when we are doing PhD. So for me, when I had 3 dreams, 3 consecutive days, I knew it was Jesus Christ. I didn't know what to do. It was scary because I suddenly realized there is Christ and there is something else. So I looked up what is the Christian place nearby, and now I am in United States. I always used to wear Indian clothes. In Canada, I always used to wear Indian clothes. Then I'm in a new place called Canada, and I have to wear jeans, and I'm already uncomfortable altogether. And then you have to go to a church. And I really didn't know how to go to a church because people dress so well in church. So I found a Newman Center, which I didn't know there was different Christians. I have heard about Pentecostal, Catholics, all these, but I always thought that's all the same because there is one Bible. So I never thought there was a difference between everyone. So I find, Christians near me, and I get Newman Center, which was across inside the campus of University of Toronto. So I go there, and again, God is so amazing. Like, he always made sure I had to try after that. So I go to this Newman Center in the afternoon, and there is a father or pastor, he is there, and I tell him, like, I had some dreams, I want to know a little more. And he tells me, go and buy a Bible. Just imagine, because everywhere in the road you get Bibles at that time, and I go to this person to talk about Jesus Christ, and he tells me, it's nice, go and buy a Bible, and he tells me the name where I should buy it. And I was do I want to spend some money on Bible? Because, you come from India, you count every dollar you will convert to how many Indian rupees. It's quite a lot. So you don't spend like that, especially when you're a postdoc. But that evening, even though it was cold, when I got out of so this Newman Center is inside the campus, so it was in the afternoon, lunchtime, I go and meet him. So I get out, and when I'm about to walk home, I cannot walk home. In that cold, you can imagine Toronto. I don't have a car. I don't even have a proper boots to that matter. I walk to that place, $11.50. I buy this tiny Bible. I come home, and my real thought as I'm walking back is, am I going crazy? Like, because, you are in a foreign country. I feel I'm happy. By that time, due to my collaborations with the US Navy, we started a company in San Diego. So I think I'm in a happy place because I'm traveling around. I have been to Romania. I was really traveling at that time. So for my life is very happy. And then this dream comes, and I'm acting so irrational. And as I walk back, I ask God, like, is there you? Like, what is this? And I get Psalm 121, and I don't know why it touched me so much. I felt there is a God. He is talking to me. And then I reached out to my friend Sneha. She was in Australia at that time. And I was like, can you help me? Because I will not go to a church. Because, again, as I said, dressing was my biggest issue to go to a church. So Sneha and Ranjit, they tried to find someone called Sam and Natalia. They were Pentecostals. They were somewhere far in Toronto, but they used to come. They started talking to me. They were younger than I, but I considered them to be kind of my godfathers because, they really helped me. And then one friend said, there's a Lutheran church, just go there, and he took me. And that Lutheran church was good and not so, it was not that, I didn't feel that scared there because it was all very old people. Some of them were actually coming with oxygen cylinders, literally. So it was kind of, okay, I feel in place. And then the pastor, that was the even better. He was only 26-year-old. He came from Hong Kong. They had a lot of persecution there, it seems. So he was very, now I was actually, for this, I just was going through my email exchange with him. And I see how many things, on and off, he has told me is in my brain. So Lord help me that I didn't go to any other church. Of course, then I was very comfortable. I thought I will be kind of settling in Toronto. But then I had a dream. And I saw this advertisement about Tuskegee University. And when I applied to Tuskegee University, everyone asked, why are you going to the US South? Because the people who knew me still didn't know I was fully, actually my friends started calling me nutcase because I would, I looked tiny, I could drink a little bit. I started drinking after coming to United States, Canada, going to these conferences. If someone tries to, bet or something, and if trying to provoke me, I will do what I should not. I was that kind of a person. So it was easy to tempt me. You just have to say the other thing, and I will do it. So then I suddenly stopped drinking for some reason. And another thing was, as soon as I started reading the Bible, for some reason I read Romans and Corinthians, nothing else, because I had no one else to guide me. So I just randomly looked, and for some reason the first book I read is Romans and then Corinthians. After that, I have not read Bible, by the way. So during that time, I started feeling a few things came, somewhere right, somewhere wrong, that I should not get married. In one sense, that's good, because I would have gone to a wrong marriage at that time. Again, now I know this is not how I should have explained it, but I thought, okay, I'm divorced, I'm not getting married again. So, so that, it was really good, because I was not anyway prepared. And then many things like that were in my mind, so I stopped drinking. I was not fun anymore. Then I go to Tuskegee. Then I see this dream. I say I'm going to Tuskegee. I still remember my postdoc mentor. He was thinking I'll be there for another couple of years, because we were working really well with some type 1 interferon modeling. So that is a drug that you give for cancer. So it's immunology. So I was doing some cell signaling at that time. And I suddenly decided to move to South. And they really couldn't understand. And I applied. I was called for an interview. And any Indians or immigrants will tell you it's very hard to get a job in United States. You can come as a student, but doing a PhD in India and then getting a job here is really hard. So I applied. They asked me to come for the interview. I come to Toronto. On my way here, I missed flight in between. So on my way here I'm alone. It is night. I come in the last groom shuttle. They took me to Tuskegee. And there is a lot of alumni. And night I sleep. I wake up in the morning. And I see that cross on Tuskegee University. And this was the cross that I see in the dream that told me to go to Tuskegee. So I knew this is the place I should come. That was because I didn't even know Tuskegee had I was not that much into God or anything to look up. Because for me, so. And then that was one amazing moment, because I was a little nervous, my first interview for a job in United States. And as soon as I saw that cross, I'm like, I'm getting this job. On my way to this place, I talked to the groom shuttle person. He talked about some Baptist church, and he even prayed, because that time I was so much in love with God. Anyone who comes to me, you cannot go without hearing. So I will just talk. So I just start, and he was a Greek and Bible scholar, and he told me, when you come back, contact us. And he prayed for me after we got out of the shuttle. And somehow I lost that card. Again, God helped me, I think, because I didn't go back to that church, which was again good. I went to a Catholic church, though. They even allowed me to take part in communion, because they thought I was so much into God and that I can be a Catholic later. And I started taking part in everything. But then I went to an Easter celebration, and they were walking around doing some things around the church. For me, it made me remember so much about my temple back home, because that's exactly what we do. We will go around every point doing certain things. So I'm almost done. Now I'm going to my physics part. And so Catholic, I stopped going there. Then I started going to a Methodist church. Again, I was in everything. I was in an Indian worship group. But I never left a church because I didn't like it. I never left a church because I didn't like the people. I have never talked against a pastor, which I will never do. But there were elements that threw me off. I never commented about it. I never publicly said anything. But only thing is, one is the Easter celebration. Then we were discussing the book of Job. And by the time, for me, Bible was literal. If Bible is not literal, I will not be a Christian. Because if it is not literal, there is no... Oh, sorry. Thank you. Slow. So... If Bible cannot be literal, I cannot be a Christian. There is no point. So we were discussing the book of Job, and in the book, of course, I usually am silent. But God kind of used to give me some things. I don't know. I didn't even realize it because I will say certain verses and I didn't really know the verses and they will all be happy. And I just came. So maybe I heard from my schools. I don't know how those things happened. So when we were talking about the first chapter in book of Job, they said, God and God and Satan cannot talk to each other. How can they? And how can God? So this is like they were making it like a poetry or something. But if God and Satan is not talking, and then Satan is going and do something to Job, when Job is the favorite of God, that means God has no power. And if that's not the case, you see, that story is not important at all anymore, right? I mean, why would Satan do something to Job if he was, I know that my job is J-O-B, my pronunciation there might be too British, Job, book of Job, J-O-B. Yeah, so again, for me, once I heard that they don't take those books in Bible literally, and that Satan and God cannot talk, I just stopped going there. So that was the real reason for stopping there. And then at that same time, for some reason, I started speaking in tongues. I didn't know anyone speaking in tongue. One Saturday, I just started speaking in tongue. I went and told a pastor's wife, and she told me maybe I should have a neurologist look at me. No, really. And I just didn't know what to do. And for that period, I used to speak in tongue quite often. Like I had no control over it. And after that, it stopped, and I didn't even know I have to speak in tongue, even if it doesn't come. It's because I didn't have someone to guide me through that. So, I mean, those I think are valid reason to stop going to a church. So I was not searching for a church. I just stopped. So now I just decided I won't go to church. I didn't understand what was happening. And then of course, you start to fall away a little bit. Even during my time of transition in Methodist Church, I knew I started it became a little easygoing. And most of the things I do wrong was after that. So now let me get a little bit of physics because I need this for my rest of my stories on my awakening moment. Because one thing God did to me was He didn't make... people tell I am very smart and I catch things very fast. Because of that, I have seen men don't like me because if you do something, I suddenly sense it. And people feel very intimidated. Even now, my supervisors, they feel intimidated because I know I cannot be fooled. I think that is too much of pride in me, but that is there. So for me, logic was very important at that time. So the Lutheran pastor, one thing he told me was, because when I started reading Bible, I started feeling like, Earth is a billion of years old. This doesn't make any sense, that 7-day story, right? For me, it's a story, or I still don't know. I'm just starting. It's 2011. So I went and told my pastor in Lutheran church, the sun and moon were created after creation. So maybe the first days were longer, millions and billions of years. And then the sun and moon was another time. So that's why maybe the time difference cannot be explained using physics. Did you understand what I'm trying to say? Because sun and moon came much later. Maybe those are longer days. So he made a comment, Chitra, don't do this. Bible, what you see, if he says it's a day and he put moon and sun for a day, that's a day. That's it. So I didn't have much time there, by the way, in Toronto. I came very fast, maybe 6 months is the most I have with that pastor. So that time, I didn't sense. It was not just the age of Earth that is wrong in Genesis 1 and science, okay? And I thank God that I didn't see the whole thing. Because if I see the whole thing, I would have known right away I would have to give up physics. If I have to give up physics, I don't know, it would have been too hard at that time because I already knew I had to give up my family and friends because, I was slowly getting separated. So that was a hard time. So I thank God again. God help me. You be humble. Like this I took from Pastor Dean last Sunday. He kept saying, Lord, help me some. So that's why I kept using that. So he was really helpful there because God did not make me see the whole thing, because as logical as I am, usually I should have seen this first. I will show you a table soon. So Big Bang Theory, I know many of us talk about Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory is not the theory of origin of solar system. It is the theory of origin of the universe, okay? And so according to that, it says that, you have a singularity, high temperature, high density, quantum fluctuations, and a lot of mathematics to confuse. And so whenever I see confusion, now I realize it cannot be from God, because God is not a God of confusion. So Big Bang Theory, as you can see, again, if you look here, that is the singularity they talk about. We don't know what happened, and they will agree they don't know either. And of course, then there is some part called inflation, which I will show in another slide. And then, as you can see, there is not even particles there. It's such high temperature. It's at that point, it is just subatomic particles like, gluons, all those things, quarks. And then, it starts to settle. This is the time period where it has started to slightly cool down, that you can start thinking about molecules and atoms, okay? So there is not even atoms and molecules. This timeline is important because I didn't want to put things together. So I just want you to know a long time passed before we reach this point where we have different solar system maybe being created, okay? The last part that you see. So we have to reach there. So first it is just some mesh, and after the mesh it becomes, it slowly cools down. Then it forms atoms, molecules, and then something happens, which we will talk about. Now, even if you ask, I just wanted to make it fun. So I just asked ChatGPT, what do you think about Big Bang? It will tell you. One thing I notice is when people talk physics out of the physics world, everyone thinks we know everything. But when you're talking inside physics, maybe that's why God put me to learn physics. Because inside the physics world, we never talk about theories as if they are facts. Theory is a theory still, because we always know to differentiate. And I will explain what. Big Bang is not the only theory to explain universe as such. There are multiple other theories. I have friends working in these theories. So sometimes, if you tell someone working in one theory about the other, they will fight the same way, we fight with physicists, okay? So it's not completely the same everywhere. So that is one point to be remembered. So there are other theories like inflationary theory. Again, that is actually very similar to Big Bang. Multiverse is something everyone might have heard, at least from SciTex, right? The multiverse theory, that there is not just one, there are multiple. And so I just put a small note for each of them. Again, it's as you can see, Big Bang couldn't explain certain thing. So what do? You include a little bit of math to explain that unexplainable, and then you create that new one, okay? So that's what really happens, and you will see that. Because these are not things that was already proved, but, looking at what you can explain, you just use something. Now it's the same when it comes to light, right? Let me just look at the time okay. So again, multiverse, let me just move on. So again, just the basic thing is, we have a few theories, and these theories always doesn't support the same idea. I had another friend who actually worked in string theory. So there, instead of a singularity, you have multiple branes, again, some mathematical models. These models collide each other, and those collisions are used to explain Big Bang, okay? So again, multiple models. But of course, idea is the same. Don't think that is different. They always think that there was nothing else, like, atoms there was high temperature, high density, and then there is a cyclic universe, which tells you that it repeats, maybe came from Hindu philosophy, that, that cyclic karma, whatever cycle we have. So cyclic universe theory is there, which says there is a Big Bang, expands, then it starts contracting, big crunch, and then again the cycle repeats, okay? So the same elements just make that formation. So, so they made sure that any one of the theories will be able to explain, if something bad is happening, we always have a backup theory. So the origin of solar system is actually different. It's not Big Bang. It's the most accepted theory is nebular theory. So you saw, I showed you that outer region of Big Bang, right? By the time molecules have started forming due to gravity, there should be some kind of an attractive force. They call it gravity. These molecules starts to come together. As they form, bigger particles, gravity should increase because now they can attract, and then that is the cause. As you can see, they will cause something called solar nebula. So right now, if you're attentive, you will already see why Genesis is completely fake or the opposite. So this is the time we have to decide, do you believe in one or the other? So there is a big formation of gaseous thing, and the center is becoming kind of big, right? Because that's how it should be. And after that, it forms a disk, and around that, there'll be a lot of particles. And these particles start to combine. So that center, because of that gravity, the center, because of the gravity, has started to emit light. All those nuclear fusion happens. And for that, there should be a critical mass that should happen in the center. Only then nuclear fission can happen, or fusion, and then it start to emit. And by that time, the outside particles form it's not molecules, just like you have sun. It's more of forming elements like we see in Earth and all. And they started forming the planets. That is nebular theory. Again, because of limitation of time, I will just move on. But remember, if this model has to work, sun has to be the heaviest, and sun has to be formed first, okay? So moving on. Other theories are there, by the way. It's not just the one most popular, and the one that could explain most things is nebular hypothesis. Then there is capture theory, disk instability theory, stellar collision theory. So usually when I am teaching, what I do is I will ask students from the name, can you tell what it is? So I think if you actually look at the names, you will be able to say what it actually means, okay? Stellar collision theory, more than one star formed somehow. They were very massive. They collided. One star remained. Some small stars formed. And then some planets formed. Okay, so like that it goes. But this is not what I wanted. So let's go to the... So you can remember, you can imagine my confusion in 2000, because I knew these theories, by the way. I have taken Astrophysics 101. If you take, you go through all this, okay? So, and even they actually tell you it's not just one theory. There are many plausible theories. Out of this is the most reasonable one. So that's how it is, okay? They never tell you this is the absolute truth, at least in physics classes. When we talk, for the, common science, we might act as if we know that's the truth. But in physics, if you look at a real textbook, it will write about the uncertainties. The best example will be light. Light, you have to treat it as a wave, and you have to treat light as a particle. And you already know how can something be a wave and a particle. To explain some things, you will say it's a particle. To explain some things, you will say it's a wave. But you see, yeah, right, yeah, so exactly. So you can imagine my confusion when I first, I know it took so long, 2016 or 17. I think that's when God started to open my eyes. Because the same time my dream comes, maybe it should be 17, after 16 mostly. Now I think about it, I don't remember, I don't date, I don't make notes. Pastor Nancy is telling me nowadays, so I'm trying my best. So I had this confusion. Suddenly I realized Genesis 1 cannot be true. Every model, even though models are different, sun has to be the heaviest. And because only then it can actually have the other things rotating around it. So I suddenly realized, if I have to believe Bible, I either have to give up one. It cannot be both. And the funniest thing was, I realized I had a lot of Christian friends in Auburn University at that time. I cannot even tell them that, because if I tell them, I know what they will say. They were all long-term Christians. So, they're all physicists, they are all scientists, they are all engineers. So I knew what I'm going to get for that. So this is the table. Creation of heaven and earth. God's word, heaven and earth created. Genesis 1. No heaven, Big Bang. Of course, there is no, even Big Bang is one plausible theory to explain origin of universe. Solar system, nebular theory. Either one will not say there was a creation of earth first, okay? Initial form, formless, but formless later subatomic particles, high temperature. So no water for sure. That's the first thing. Because remember, even now we are trying to find water in any other planets. Light was created by word, Genesis 1:3. Light was a result of formation of stars, which is nuclear fission or fusion. And the light on earth is provided entirely by sun. Light and darkness. God divided light and darkness after seeing light was good. According to our knowledge right now, it comes from stars. And where light does not reach is darkness. Because the light that got divided could not be coming from stars or sun or moon, because they were not made yet. So that is where I started feeling confused. Where did this light come from? So day and night, God divided light from darkness, and light is day. So remember, and in this case, earth has to rotate, it has to come from the sun. So I have quite a bit there. If anyone wants the slide, I can give, because it's hard to go through each verse. Separation of waters from water, a lot of water. There was a lot of water when God created. We don't have any water, because you see, the temperature is so high, even molecules cannot exist. Or even in the other case, when nebular theory, there is no possibility of water. There is no water. Firmament or sky created a firmament to divide the water. Empty space with air molecules. Just imagine how solar system will be if there is water in between, right? Everything, because now gravity, all the theory collapses. Again, as I said, I can just go on, but let me just be quick. You know what I'm trying to do here. So again, there is another table. So there are 3 tables. I just went till, I didn't even want to go till man, but we had to. So I didn't explain it. And the one thing I liked about, one thing I should say is sun and moon is the place where, that I realized as I was reading. I think I'm trying my best to do what Pastor Dean does. 14 to 18, there are 4 verses just explaining sun and moon. I'm in the ministry school, so I had to do it. And but no other verses is as long. When he explains sun and moon is when he is taking most time. Man is just, less than one sentence or 2 sentences. So just letting you know. But again, I like one last thing. Man and woman were created and given dominion over the whole earth. Man due to the evolutionary superiority, which we are losing to AI, is slowly gained control over the whole world. So, that means in an evolutionary way, we should not be worried that AI is going to take over. So again, here, as you can see, logically, I could not have reached a conclusion, because this is now affecting my job. God gave me an understanding. Lord, help me. But at this point, it is not as simple, because that was the time to quit, right? Christianity was nice, a nice phase, because my parents did think I was in a phase and I will get out of it, just like I got out of socialism. So that was the point of quitting, but luckily I did not. And then I started thinking about, people told I am smart. I always thought there was something illogical when I explained physics. People understood when I explained physics, but I didn't understand, to be honest. I didn't understand many of the math, because I always thought if I make 2 + 3 is equal to 8 and start my judgment from there, everything changes, right? So it depends on how I am defining that base. So logical deduction was that if sun cannot be that strongest, what can happen? It cannot be a moving model. Then everything is going to collapse. So the world that I am thought about cannot be there. I didn't want to think, to be honest. I talked to, actually, by the time, even though my ex-husband, we are divorced, suddenly he reached out to me because he reached out to the same conclusion at that time back in India. And we talked and we realized we were just dumb. So now comes transition period. I will go quick. Period of solitude and verse. I even stopped reading Bible for that matter. I was very dedicated to God, but I was just lazy. I just thought I will switch off my head. No more logical thinking. I didn't care about anything. I just decided I have Jesus Christ. That's enough, and gone. And then COVID hit. Till then, I was enjoying my teaching. I'm just having a dual life. And once it happened, what the Pastor Dean story, he stole my story, which was good, because now I have time. Sal and Jordan came to my house. So what happened is, I'm not even a homemaker or anything. Suddenly I wanted to do something in my house. I look in Facebook. I'm usually very careful who I invite to my house. I see Sal's picture and I thought, okay, let him come and do. And he didn't do the real job I called him to do. But because, we did a few other things. They come and they are sitting there. And one day they asked me about, what do I do for living? I say physics. And it was actually Jordan who kind of gave a smirk. And I am like, okay. Because by the time I'm embarrassed when people say I'm smart when I say physics. So I felt at home when he did that, to be honest. Because I felt so embarrassed most of the times when people say I'm smart. As soon as I say I'm a physicist. And then they didn't really, I think they were just giving me tidbits. I didn't notice this because for me, Jesus Christ is the truth. So I don't care, I was not even listening to them, I think. Then I gave them a check. I forgot to put my signature. So Saturday I do fast, pray, and silence. And my phone is on silence. And I have been asking Sal to come and get his check signed. He won't come. And Saturday, I suddenly see it's ringing. And I have to take it because, it's a debt. So I said, God, please forgive me. This is a debt. I have to, he has children. So I take the phone. He comes in. And I told I am fasting because I am also waiting for an opportunity to talk about Christ. So they were giving me things, by the way. And then he said, oh, what were you fasting for? I said, I'm a Christian. And he said, come to our church tomorrow. And he said, our church is not the regular church. And I didn't think. Next day morning, I text him, is this the address? He's like, you're coming? I said, yeah, I'm coming. And he's so happy. I go there. I love Pastor Dean's sermon. He talked about Revelation that day. And I have never heard that at all. I don't know this person. And at the end, he talks something about, something about his governorship race. I'm like, politics, why did I come here? But by the time I like it, because for me, I don't know. I don't know anything. And then I go and search him after going home. That's when I see, there are other people who don't believe about the solar system. And that was kind of eye-opening. I don't know why I didn't look before. I really didn't know there were other people who thought these things were wrong. So for me, it was great. And I don't think I have time, but let me just quickly take you through the slides alone. Because I started listening to Pastor Dean, I have not listened to almost 80% of his sermons. Sorry about that, because it's just 1 year. I'm in the ministry school, and that itself is a lot. So I just listened to those courses. So, but what I learned is he goes through history and tells the story very nicely. So I tried to replicate it because my instructor who first taught me physics told me to learn the physics history. So the first thing I learned when I learned about Feynman was history of physics. So I went back, and what I realized is, in the time of Greece, I'm just going to summarize it because I'm running out of time. There were many, this is all in the time of Pythagoras, during that time where the Greeks were taking themselves as the golden age. These scientists started everything, or these people who were philosophers started everything. So they suddenly they made the earth to be a globe by looking at the stars, and they had a central fire called the pyrocentric model by Philolaus, and they worked in the best part about this is they all worked in limiters, and that is called series expansion, harmonia, which means the math of music, embryology, diseases, looking into blood imbalances, bile, blood, phlegm. All these were almost started at the same time. And that was something very revealing. I still try to go and find which part of Greek or Indian literature did globe earth come. I was not successful, so now I will be keeping on doing this. And then there was Aristarchus of Samos. He was the first one who tried to make sun to be the center. That didn't hit well because, so you can see all of this is 310 to 230 BC. And then if you go, this is again Archytas of Tarentum. So usually they have the name and the place. And he invented mathematical mechanics and started to explain things just using. So remember, whatever they say they see has been done like years back mathematically. And mathematics of music, metaphysics, a definition of form and matter, all those came during that time. But what I found interesting is, again, God places me in some positions. In the ministry school, I wanted to do COVID vaccine as my research topic, but I kept hearing about going to pedophilia, not a topic I was excited about or happy about or ever wanted to do when you know, it's a creepy field. And as I was researching, I came across pederastry, which was a Greek way of, initiating. So whenever big philosophers like Socrates, everyone, they will have a young boy with them whom they groom. They used to have sexual relationships with them. And those kids will be the next person. And they thought as grooming and taking them and providing education. As Pastor Dean and everyone else here says, nothing new under the sun. So what you see here now in the education system existed. And you can see this started at the same, by the time we start talking about all these things, at the same time, this pederastry started also in the Greek world. So just wanted to point that out. And then, I have a few slides. Ptolemy, Copernicus, all are Christians, again from Pastor Dean, by the way, because as I was listening to my lectures, I started seeing Catholic and Islamic influences. I didn't go to Hinduism, by the way, yet. So, you see all of them are actually Catholics or Christians, I don't even know how Catholics and Christians can talk. For example, you see Copernicus, his uncle was a Catholic canon bishop, and you can see mathematics and astrology was closely related. And if you want to do medical education, they had to do astrology. Again, something that Pastor Dean told me, because I used to use Ayurvedic medicine, and he said about a book of Enoch, and then I went back and found that they have a common thing. So, Kepler, everyone were Christians. Actually, all had, again, another thing from Pastor Dean is I saw about child abuse and those kind of thing, opening demonic pathways. And doorways, and you will see that Copernicus, almost everyone had an abusive childhood. They have diseases in childhood. They had psychotic diseases, I think Newton, many, and he even said, I will kill my mother and kill my father, whatever. So it happened. So it was always there. And Sir Isaac Newton, though everyone talk about him as physicist, when I first became a Christian, what I understood is he has done eclectic studies, and his book predicts that world will come to end in 2060 from the book of Daniel and Revelation. But as you know, he was too much into occultic practices. So then Islamic history, I knew I couldn't reach it, so I didn't put my other things. Islam, we will not think as mathematicians, but actually that was new to me. They are big mathematicians. They did a lot of work in series. And then there is Ramanujan in India, who actually told, he died, I think, when he was 25 or something. There is a movie about him. He actually told the goddess come and gives him mathematics. So he didn't know how to prove it. and now people are proving it still. So yeah, and my real confusion, I went with Pastor Dean for the the experiment that was done. So I had another physics faculty go with me, and we started talking, and we realized we never talk about curvature of Earth in any physics curriculum. This should be an easy experiment. You go in a lake, put two canoes, from one canoe, if you cannot see a canoe which is 2 miles away, you have the answer, right? You don't even have to go to the height because people will bring all the refractive index and all. Because, as physicists, we can say whatever Pastor Dean says, we will say, no, that's not right, because of refractive index, you are just seeing it's an illumination, all those things. But when it is on the surface of water, it's the same refractive index. So, I was worried because people made this huge chambers to create vacuum, spending so much money. Why did we not see this? So my last comment is, it's okay. My talk was not for non-believers, it was mainly for believers. I know Pastor Dean has converted many using his arguments to believers. But my thing is, if you have a friend who thinks Bible and these things that you see can match, it cannot. It can be anything, but not biblical. It was Babylonian astronomers also come. So I was thinking, as the dates pass, Pastor Dean might be able to think about something from the book of Revelation or something. Or maybe he already has these things in one of his talks. I don't even know, because as I said, I have not listened to all of his. So that will be... Now, yeah, so I will conclude. This was supposed to be a better figure. I just saw it 2 days back. This is my hometown beach. I used to go there really all the time. And when you stand, you will see a straight thing. And this picture made it look like it's curved. I just wanted to show this kind of, it's very easy to do that curve. It looks like curve, right? That was a photography contest. So they did it for that photography contest to show the curvature. But I have been there all the time. You don't see anything. It's a straight. If you put it straight, it's straight. So, yeah. And that's it. I have to show my last slide. Yeah. I suddenly got a fascination for moon daylight. Moon, the transparency, but you cannot see it even clear there. If you look here, you can see. You see, so that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Wow. And just for those again who want to say, okay, that's just crazy, but it seems like, and I'm going to say this, but NIH, Google, Metaverse, all these people are trying to get her to work for them. So we're not talking about just your everyday physicist either. So we are blessed. What's amazed me? I was sitting here thinking, our little church, Little Fire and Grace Church, we have a former member of the Sinaloa cartel who is now born again. We have a PhD in physics who is now born again and preaching what the Bible says about creation. We have ex-drug addicts. We have a fully transgender that transitioned back and is on fire for Jesus. I just marvel at what God is doing in our little bitty church. And this is something the Lord told me years ago. He told me in 2010, before things really kind of blew up. He said, your church is like the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He said, you're going to be just a little lunch, but you're going to feed thousands of people. And he said, I'm going to do that for you.